So here's the deal. I wasn't really planning on sharing this. I'm not really a ghost hunter or anything like that. But I was recently in Scotland and I filmed something kind of weird. I was walking around this old abandoned castle, and here, let me show you part of a clip. Now, I know there are a million reasons why something like that could happen in a video. You've got lens glare, bugs, dust, condensation from your breath. But the thing is, none of that really fits with my situation. And also, there were some weird stuff in the other videos I took from the castle too. Here, check out this one. So I have to say, it was a beautiful day. There were no bugs, dust, anything. So I have no idea what that stuff is. Here's another video. It wasn't until I got back that I found out Scotland is known for being like crazy haunted. So I went down the research rabbit hole, and this castle has some pretty wild history. Before I can get into all that, we need to go over the timeline. So here we go. So this is King James VI. Newsland's castle was rebuilt after James ordered its destruction. Why? Because Francis Hay, the 9th Earl of Errol, got a little too bold and decided to dabble in a rebellion. Twice. Here's how it went down the first time. Francis and his buddy Huntley heard a rumor that the Chancellor might be plotting against them, so what do? Naturally, they form a rebellion squad and march towards the city. But James VI caught wind and rode down with his forces and squashed the whole thing before it even got off the ground. But here's the weird part. James just let them go. Nothing. No punishment. Alright, hold up, quick question. So Francis can get his friends to rebel and storm a city, but if I ask my friends to watch Elizabeth, starring the amazing Cate Blanchett, by the way, for the 5th time because I'm starting a YouTube channel that maybe 5 people will watch, suddenly everyone has plans. Whatever. Turns out, Francis Hay was a staunch Catholic, and James VI had his sights on something really big, the throne of England. With Queen Elizabeth nearing the end of her reign, James wanted to keep things calm with the Protestant-friendly Scotland, but at the same time, he couldn't afford to alienate Europe's Catholic powers. This wasn't just about rebellion, it was also about optics. So the whole Queen Elizabeth, Mary Queen of Scots, King James thing, it all ties directly into the castle and includes this jewel that's like lost to time and priceless, which is kind of cool. I will get into that in a different video. If you're interested, let me know. I just don't have time in this one, but here's more about the castle. So the second act of treason by Francis and Huntley was too much, and the 6th had to act. Francis and Huntley had signed these blank letters and were trying to sneak them out. It's this whole thing. So the 6th had to react and said they had to denounce Catholicism or face exile. So Francis and his buddy had this massive party. They danced the night away. It was supposed to be kind of this epic celebration, and were exiled in 1595. Surprisingly, Francis and Huntley were welcomed back into Scottish high society about a year later, and the rebuild of the castle started almost immediately. From my research, it looks like Francis was able to get this money under pretty sketchy circumstances. I'm not sure if I saw anything paranormal in the castle, but if I did, one of my main suspects as the ghost is directly related to this. Over the ensuing centuries, the castle underwent significant expansions. In the late 19th century, Newsland's castle found its place in literary history. Enter Bram Stoker. He was a frequent visitor to the castle and stayed just a few years before publishing his iconic novel Dracula. And if you take a look at the layout of the castle, I can see why people believe that Slains was the inspiration for the castle's dramatic setting. Here's a quote from Dracula.
The castle is on the very edge of a terrible precipice. A stone falling from the window would fall 1,000 feet without touching anything. As far as the eye can reach is a sea of green treetops, with occasionally a deep rift where there is a chasm. Here and there are silver threads where the rivers wind in deep gorges through the forests. But I am not in heart to describe beauty, for when I had seen the view, I explored further. Doors, doors, doors everywhere, and all locked and bolted. In no place save from the windows in the castle walls is there an available exit. The castle is a veritable prison, and I am a prisoner.
There are probably a few castles that Stoker drew inspiration from for Dracula's castle, but with him having visited Slains on the regular and everything else lining up, most people believe Slains holds the main stake, haha, pun intended, for the inspiration for Dracula's castle. Despite its grandeur, things took a turn for the broke in the 20th century. The castle's roof was removed, possibly to avoid paying homestead taxes, and plans for the castle to be stripped down and sold for parts went forward. But then, everything just suddenly stopped. Maybe they ran out of money. Did they see a ghost? Or did they realize the logistics of selling a medieval labyrinth was harder than they thought? Who knows? But without a roof, the brutal weather and the North Sea winds quickly transformed Slains into the haunting ruin we see today. Quick note, they say Venice is sinking. Well, Slains is eroding. I highly recommend checking it out, but if you do, please be careful. There are no official tours or safety nets or helpful watch your step signs. One wrong move and, well, let's just say there are plenty of stories about people taking a tumble off the cliffs or towers. And trust me, the drops are just as devastating as the castle's history. While its literary connection brought New Slane's fame, the castle's true history is far darker and more scandalous than any fiction. For centuries, it was the stage for betrayal, intrigue, and tragedy. Marriages were forged here to solidify power, with some ending in mysterious deaths. Rivalries between noble families turned deadly. Accusations of witchcraft were whispered in its halls, and the castle played a central part in the Scottish witch trials. And, according to local lore, at least one priceless jewel disappeared within its walls, never to be seen again. Was it lost, stolen, or is it still there waiting to be discovered? Who knows? And that brings me back to what I saw in the castle. I'm not sure if I saw anything paranormal, but the history alone is worth exploring, and if it was something paranormal, well, that's pretty cool too. There are a few really famous ghosts at Slane's castle, but there's this story about a ghostly carriage that really plays into the history that I really want to tell you about, so that'll be my next video. But until then, follow me, let me know what you think, let me know if you have any insider information. Yeah, stay nerdy and talk to you soon. Thanks, bye.